morning, everyone. My name is Ingrid, and we are very honored to be here to present you about Shakespearean tragedy. We are group number 3, including me. My name is Ingrid, Natalia, and I'm Phương. My name is Thảo. Thank you. Well, this little is actually known for sure about the man who we call William Shakespeare, although he is a name who is familiar to nearly every speaking person. His birth year guess just what he looks like is a mystery, but most people today still consider him as the greatest of all dramatists. So this is the reason why we are here today, to look at his life and one of his very famous Shakespearean tragedy drama. So let's welcome Natalia for the first overview for the general information about Shakespeare and the social background at that time. Please welcome her.
Thank you. So first, I'm going to give a brief explanation of introduction to Shakespeare. Then I'm going to analyze the historical and social context of his day. And then I will analyze the reflections, like the effects this historical context had in his writing. So, thank you. So William Shakespeare was a poet, a playwright, and an actor, and he is considered to be the greatest writer in the English language, the world's eminent dramatist. He was born on the 21st of 1564, and he died on the same day, 1616, in Stratford-upon-Avon. He is often called the England's national poet, and he's also known as the Bard of Avon. So his works include 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and 2 long narrative poems, and few other verses. And his plays have been translated into most major living languages, and his playwrights have been played more than anybody else's everywhere in the world. So, yeah. So in his day, his career reached the reigns of Elizabeth I, who ruled from 1558 to 1603, and James I, who ruled from 1603 to 1625. So now we're going to analyze each of these eras. So in the Elizabeth era, this was known as a time of relative political instability, and it was followed by a lot of agitations. Then Elizabeth I became the Queen of England in 1558, where London was seen as a cultural and commercial center. When she ascended to the throne, there were a lot of clashes throughout Europe between Protestant and Catholics, and she was a great supporter of the arts and the theatre. She actually supported the construction and gave money for it, to the construction of professional theatres for the first time in England's history, so it was really important. And then 15,000 theatre goers were going to the theatre for a week in London, which was at the time like 150,000 people, so that is a lot of people going to the theatre at the time. Then upon the death of Elizabeth I, James I rose to power. He was a writer himself, so he really supported the learning and the theatre. And at the king's invitation, Shakespeare's theatre's company which was called Lord Chamberlain's Men, changed his name to King's Men, so you can see how close they were. King James also commissioned the translation of the Bible and from Latin into English. So for people who didn't study Latin at the time, it was actually they could have access to it. So that was really important as well. writings, cultural mores of the day were reflected, and he wrote in great detail about the society at that period of time, and he actually revealed the defects of this society by creating characters that would act outside of the expectations that the society had. So, for example, he created strong female characters like Kate from The Taming of the Shrew, and in this plot, it was basically Petruchio, which is like the main character, trying to control Kate. So she's like fighting against that. So she was a strong woman. Then he laughed at the absurdity of love and relationships, and this is in Midnight's Night Dream. There's like an example of this where the characters were ignored by the love interest, and it was also shown in a very satiric way. So he was just making fun of love, which wasn't very normal at the time either. And then he exposed lasting greed. In Hamlet, for example, this is very obvious because Claudius, another one of the main characters, murdered his own brother and married his widow to become king. So that was a crazy story at the time as well. And then one of the main themes and topics in Shakespeare's writing was love and marriage. So in this period of time, marriage was either a business deal, or if the families had power enough, a political alliance. And he portrays this view on his plays, where lovers are attempting to defy marriages of convenience and make their own decisions about whom they want to marry and be free to do so. So examples of this are, of course, Romeo and Juliet, where the two families, Capuleto and Tesco, are against each other, but they fight for it and they get married, and yeah, we all know what happens. And then another example is Helena and Bertram in All's Well That Ends Well. And here Helena tries to manipulate the political connections so they can marry the person she loves. And finally, it's interesting I think it's very important to note that most of his comedies were not set in England. Most of them were set outside, but he was criticizing what was happening in England at the time. But he wasn't, he kind of just distanced himself from the criticism, so he was, just setting all his stories in different places.
So, as all you guys have a kind of general information about Shakespeare, and now I'm going to talk to you, present to you about the Shakespearean influences and the journey, one of his very famous journey in drama, Shakespearean tragedy. Well, even if you have seen a Shakespeare play, you will have used one of his words or phrases. This is stated by Stephen Emerson, a very famous journalist from BBC, who is trying to prove the Shakespeare genius and his enduring influences all around the world. Shakespeare influences extends from the literature, theater, to our daily life also, Western philosophy, or even English language itself. His writing is believed to have a strong influences on a number of notable novelists and poets. For example, we can name Charles Dickens or Handy. Some of them have kind of decided they cite Shakespeare as one of their most influences in their life. And even our new authors today still endure some influences from Shakespeare. Well, talking about Shakespeare, we talked about Hamlet, Othello, Romeo and Juliet. So what are they? they belong to the Shakespearean tragedy, which is so-called, which it can be, literally understood as a tragic drama. Well, a tragic drama is fundamentally serious, involving the downfall of the hero, of a heroic figure, and the theme are lofty, which can be exemplified as through Macbeth. We can see the ambition. One more thing that I would like you to know is that Shakespeare masterpieces demonstrate the nature of humanity. So we can see from Macbeth the ambition of people, of human beings. From King Lear and from Romeo and Juliet, we have a kind of the passion of people, drama between a young couple separated by the political situation. For Hamlet, we got a story of revenge, and Othello also they all demonstrate the kind of nature of humanity. The majority of Shakespearean tragedies read under the reign of James I. It could be interpreted that the darker content of the play may reflect the general mood of the country following the death of Elizabeth I and the geographical preferences. One more thing is that most of the Shakespearean tragedies based on the historical figure, which can be example as from Hamlet. We have a story from a French author, which is called the history of the Prince of Denmark, the history of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, and for King Lear, some event happened in King Lear are found kind of identical to some event from a story of Sir Philip Sidney. So Othello, Hamlet, Romeo, and Juliet, they are all share some common features during the whole play. So we're now going to go through to discover what are the common features that we can also find in Shakespearean tragedy. The first thing I want to mention is about the tragic hero, but we're going to analyze it through a very typical Shakespearean tragedy, which is called Hamlet. Hamlet is the story of a young scarman who is trying to avenge his father's murder. His father ghost returning to Hamlet, telling him that he was murdered by his brother Claudius, who is also the uncle of the Hamlet as well. He married Hamlet's mother after the death of the king, and the story is about the revenge of Hamlet. Hamlet is a typical tragic hero, which is a man of normal stature, which means that they are all from a high position, which usually king, a duke, or prince. The same you can also see in King Lear or Romeo and Juliet. They are all from the high position classes in the society. The next thing is he is not an ordinary man, but he is a man with outstanding quality and greatness about him. Hamlet has all the feature, all the traits needed to be a tragic hero. For example, he is very brave and daring. His trip to England seemed to be very tricky, seemed to be very risky. Taking his trip, if his plan didn't go as expected, he could have been executed. Or he is very loyal. He's loyal to his father is the reason why he was so angry to his mother and Claudius. He is very so intelligent as well. He pretended to be insane, he pretended to be mad to get more information from his uncle Claudius. But he is just like every tragic hero appear in Shakespearean plays, that he's perfect, but he's good, but he's not too good. So he has the flaw himself. explain further by one of my friends. Please welcome Thảo for more information about the common feature in Shakespearean tragedy.
Good morning. My name is Thảo, and today I'm here to present about two main features in Shakespeare tragedies. That is the conflict and the supernatural element. And from that, I hope that you may see the reflection of the society at that time. And to make it more clear, I will show the future in the typical place of Shakespeare, Hamlet. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the first feature of the conflict. There are only two kinds of conflict in Shakespeare tragedies: external and internal. That appear concurrently. I want to talk about the internal conflict. Internal conflict in tragedies comprise the structure between two opposing groups or parties. In the second half of 17th century, London, in England, there were a lot of economic and political problems, and at this time, London was a violent place with riot, disorder, and conflict, and this is reflected in Shakespeare's play. That's explained why in Shakespeare tragedies there were a lot of battle and violent scene and structural. In Hamlet, one of the most prominent internal conflict is the conflict between different parties who fight for the throne. Thus, as a result, the Hamlet's uncle killed Hamlet's father to take the throne. The second kind of conflict is internal conflict. Internal conflict refers to the situation between two minds, two opposing passion, tendency, or idea. In Shakespeare tragedies, the tragic hero often have a lot of internal conflict. His sound is often tossed up and down by conflicting motion. And Hamlet is a perfect example in this regard. Hamlet's mind is torn by the conflict between his desire for revenge for his father and the morals group. That's the reason why he not only want to kill the king Claudius to revenge, but also want to damn himself to hell because of the guilty feeling. Internal conflicts are very prominent in Shakespeare tragedies, and to some extent, this feature reflects the society at that time. The second feature is supernatural element. In this period of time, almost people believe in the existence and the power of supernatural, like gods, devils, spirit, and magician. That's the reason why the supernatural element in William Shakespeare plays is very common. In Hamlet, the supernatural element appear in the form of the gods, and the gods make several appearances during the play, and it is um, it is like a guiding force behind the Hamlet. Behind Hamlet, it it asks him to do it asks him to revenge and it and it to revenge and um, it's asking to revenge and um, it's causing the confusion and it is the beginning of Hamlet trouble. And let's move on to next feature in Shakespeare tragedy.
What's up, mate? My name is Will. Today I'm really happy to introduce another feature of William Shakespeare tragedies. The first, we call it hamartia. Hamartia, so what is hamartia? Hamartia is a tragic flaw. In a simple word, tragic flaw means tragic flaw is a failing of a tragic hero. A character suffers from a downfall from the tragic flaw in her character. And an outstanding feature of hamartia is the tragic fate of the heroes, caused by the tragic flaw in the hero's character. In the ancient tragedy, the hero destruction is caused by the fate, the force of our control of the hero. But in William Shakespeare tragedy, the character can make choices that's called death. Hamlet is conscious of the tragic flaw because he don't allow their friend to even keep him away from the ghost. Yes, the fate doesn't prevent him killing his uncle, but he chose not to do. Although he had opportunity to kill his uncle, but because he delayed, so he don't kill his uncle. In the Act 3, Scene 4, the killing was just an accident because Hamlet think that Claudius, so Hamlet's action is just a series of tragic events because of his horrible mistake. So hamartia is just a feature that shows the mistakes and choices or her personality in the tragedy. The second feature I want to show is a catharsis. Catharsis means the purgation of one emotion. In a simple words, but it's an expression of one emotion to show through the edge of tragedy. In the tragedy, we can feel the pity or the pity or the sympathy or the fear to a certain character or to another character. When watching his tragedy, we can feel the pity for a certain character or a fear for others' character. So Shakespeare tragedy gives a catharsis to our emotion. We can identify ourselves with the character when watching it, and in addition, any trouble, mystery, or hardship of the hero compels us to feel pity for him. In Act 5, Scene 2, we can see that Hamlet engages in a sword fight with Laertes and Claudius. Although the audience is aware of the fact that Laertes and Claudius have conspired against Hamlet by agreeing to have him during a passionate cup and to question the blade as another precaution to ensure Hamlet's death in Act 4, Scene 7. So we can feel the pity or the fear, the creation of pity or fear we call it a catharsis. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. Now, with you in conclusion.
Well, thank you, Lai, for your attention. We have covered three parts. We all have covered three parts of our presentation. The first part we have Shakespearean, the general information about the social background. For my part, we have go through some Shakespeare changing definition and some features. Now it's time for your question. Please sharing your opinion and your concerning about this topic, and we are very happy to answer all the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Can I have one question? That how the Shakespeare and his masterpiece link to the period of literature that Renaissance, right? Yeah.
Right. Thank you for your question. We are talking about Shakespearean tragedy, and most of the Shakespearean tragedy is written under the range of King the First. Well, it could be explained that under the range of King the First, he is very James the First. He very fond of. He has kind of theatrical preferences. That means that he like theater and he like plays. He like dramas, and it can somehow promote the evolution of Shakespeare masterpieces, and his darker contents in his masterpieces may reflect the general mood of the country following the death of the Queen Elizabeth I. And well, I think it's just about Shakespearean tragedy. Other masterpieces of him also reflects kind of some feature of the social at that time. For example, like in the Elizabethan era, we can see that women do not have the marriage and the love as Natalia has presented, that they do not have their voice in their marriage. For example, we can see from Romeo and Juliet. So it somehow reflects the social feature at that time. Thank you. Any question, please? I can see that all you guys have a deep understanding in our presentation. It's quite clear, right? Or if you want to know more information about this period or Shakespearean masterpieces, please raise your voice.
Okay, I'm going to ask one of you. Tell me one of the points they presented. Lady, first row. No, your friend. Can you go back to the slide? The historical time. After that. Okay, go back to the outline first. All right. Three main parts in the body: historical background, tragedy overview, and tragedy features. All right. Three parts. The first one, you think that it's clear enough? About the historical background, you think that it's clear enough? I ask all of you. Yes. Is that clear enough? Yes. Yes. How about the second one? Overview of Shakespearean tragedy and the tragedy's features. For these two parts, which one you think that you need to listen again? Or everything clear? About the feature. Okay, so lady in the first row. You have no questions, mean you're quite clear about the features. Can you go back to the slide? How many features dimensions? Lady? How many features dimensions? 5 features. Alright, so one of the features. Go back. The first one about the tragic hero. Second one, go to the slide. Kind of slideshow. Alright. Number one first. Tragic hero. Go up to number 2. Number 2.
Here we have the two types of conflicts, external and internal.
That's number 2.
Right, that's number 2.
Feature of Shakespearean tragedy. That's number 2.
Yeah, during
Can you go back to the first slide about the number 1? Alright, so here is the way you have the format. Check, correct it. Correct the mistake. Okay, number 3.
and got number 4.
Next. And the last one. Number 4 and number 5, I'm not quite clear. Alright, so lady, can you make it in a simple way from your own understanding? Number 4 and number 5.
From my understanding, judging from the characters, the personalities of the character lead to his downfall or his tragedies in his life.
So, that means
it was a character mistakes and his characteristics that led him to his death or his downfall in his life events.
in another word, example.
For example, in the artwork Hamlet, he didn't intend to kill his uncle from the first place because of his hesitation. So it resulted in his mistake later on.
What is mistake later on? They mention the mistake later on. Don't look at them. Everything you find is clear enough and without a question? No? So why? You don't ask the question. Because
I was confused.
that mean? Because the information here is too confusing, that's why you don't know how to ask the question. Can I interpret that? You understand my question? It's too confused, too much, so we don't know how to raise the question. Too difficult for us to raise the question because the information is here too confusing. Or you not pay enough attention to the presentation. If you say that it's too confusing, they have very low mark. If you say that because you lack a presentation, alright, the other group would have doubled the mark because no cooperation is here. The answer is, you understand the question? Understand? Yes. The answer here? You?
I think maybe the speaker is like there are some gaps between the information, so we cannot get the full information from the.
Okay, so the homework today for presentation start here today. No more group. Next week we have 4 other groups.